Today's conversation is sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and you want to know about how we're helping other accredited investors keep more of their income, go to firstgencp.com/going long.
I mean, it's one thing to buy a couple deals, to buy a deal here, buy a deal there, but then you have to kind of eventually you're running around with your head cut off because you don't realize like, okay, well, I need to pull myself out of the weeds and start working on the business and not like really in the business, right?
You're listening to the Going Long podcast with Billy Keels, the #1 podcast for long-distance real asset investing.
Welcome to the Going Long podcast. We're back once again to continue to help to educate you so that you feel much more comfortable as well as confident investing beyond your backyard. And yes, I am your host, Billy Keels. Super excited to welcome you back to another guest episode today, which is awesome. So listen, also just want to thank you very quickly for those of you who continue to post, continue to screenshot and tag us across social media. We really appreciate that, especially on the LinkedIn platform. It's so awesome. And Instagram, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for doing that. Really appreciate you being a part of the Going Long family. And it's absolutely fantastic. So, and also for those of you who want to leave your honest written review as well as rating, continue to do that because especially on the solo episodes, I'm going to read your name to all the people across 40 plus different countries at this point in time and tens of thousands of downloads. We really, really appreciate you. So go ahead and do that and I'll read your name. Also too, if you've ever wanted to find any of the previous episodes, over 260 at this point, go to firstgencp.com/podcasts and you'll be able to find every single episode, audio, video, transcripts. It's awesome. firstgencp.com/podcasts. And so for those of you who want to understand more about what it's like to be, go from the military, get your education, continue with the military, and also look for efficiencies in multifamily value-add real estate. And guess what? This is going to be really one of the conversations you want to get your pen and paper out. Yes, I did say pen and paper or iPad and iPen, whatever, because this is going to be awesome for you. We're going to get to the conversation with Eli Vo, and we're going to get to that just after this. Are you a busy, high-paid professional? Someone that in the previous 2 years has earned $200,000 and is expected to earn $200,000 this year? Or maybe if you filed jointly, previously you've earned $300,000 the previous 2 years and you're also expected to do that this year. Or maybe if not, either individually or jointly, you have $1 million in net worth, not including your primary residence. If you meet any of these criteria, then you're someone that the IRS considers to be an accredited investor. That probably means you're someone like an enterprise software sales executive. You may be an executive in a major corporation. You may be a doctor. You may be a lawyer, maybe a high-paid consultant. You may even work for a major sports franchise. The thing I know you have in common is that you continue to do the hard work. Like you're doing 100% of the work and you're only bringing home 50% of the reward because you continue to get crushed by your income taxes. If you are tired of this situation and you're looking for a new solution, then go to firstgencp.com/going long. When you get there, that's going to help you to start the journey so that you can begin to take back control of your taxes, take control of your time. And then also that means you're going to be able to spend more of the time that you want with the people that you love the most. And that is the way that you're going to get the personal freedom that you're looking for. So if you're looking to take back control, go ahead and go to firstgencp.com/going long and see how we can help you today. So if you've ever wanted to know what it was like to go from military paratrooper to multifamily specialist and how that can improve your long distance investing journey, then guess what? Today's the conversation you're going to want to listen to until the very last word, like literally the very last word. You know why? Because today's guest not only is a highly decorated veteran that served 21 years in both the Army as well as the Air Force, also served as an IC specialist and project manager. And you know what? While he was working in the military, or while he was in the military, he also founded a real estate investment company. It gives me great pleasure to welcome one of the co-founders of Atlas Multifamily Group, Mr. Eli Vo. Eli, welcome to the show, man.
Man, thank you very much. I'm very excited to be here.
Oh man, that makes two of us because I'm really excited that you are here, Eli. Fantastic. Love the pre-conversation. And I'm absolutely positive you're going to add so much value to the Going Long family, man. Love your energy. And I want to jump right in, man, because as you know, Eli, I'm going to ask you 2 questions in the beginning. I'm going to ask you 3 at the end. You know what? I think I'm going to ask you a lot of questions in the middle too. I just don't know what those questions are yet.
All right.
So here's the thing. So help us understand, help us get started. Where is it that you call home in the U.S.?
Fort Worth, Texas.
Fort Worth. I think that's in a very small state somewhere near No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, I know.
State of Texas. I
not
used to live in Texas.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Long time ago. We'll talk about that afterwards. So cool. So Dallas, Fort Worth is home for you. Help us understand. Question number 2 is really, what's the most positive thing that's happened to you in the last 24 hours, Eli?
So I'll say we just recently had a closing on one of our deals. So we sold a deal, and we're kind of like in the middle of we're in the final moments of acquiring a deal. And so like just the other day, we're kind of had like this strange kind of quiet pause in the business. And so about middle of the day, my wife and I kind of took some time off and went like on a date. And and so it was just kind of a reminder of like, when you're working through, all the stress and the strain, and you're building so much, and you're kind of just going through your day to day, it's kind of those small things that, kind of pull you back and remind you like why you started in the first place. So I think that's probably one of the more positive, in the last 24 hours at least.
So listen, everybody. So first of all, Eli, thank you so much for sharing that. And everybody, if you're not watching the video version, you should jump over and watch the video version, because as Eli's telling the story, like he and I are both like literally ear to ear with a smile like this. You made me think. My wife and I, we went and had a massage on a Monday at noon, right? And sometimes you think you're in the thralls of it so much, and so many things going on, but it's those special moments that when we can cling on to them and we recognize, wow, not everybody is doing this or is able to do this. And the fact that you're able to do it, number 1, and 2, that you recognize that, I just think is amazing, right? And so that's what is about these massive smiles that you see on both Eli and I. So like I said, if you're not watching the video version, check it out. It's in the first couple seconds. You'll be good. So anyway, listen, Eli, I get all I love just being able to have these types of conversations and recognize things. We also recognize like there's so many things we tend to think that everything is around money, and it's not.
Yes, yeah.
It's about how are we able to invest our time with the people that we love the most when we want to do it, and in the ways in which we want to do it. So it's just it makes my heart super happy. Go expand, please.
Yeah, I think a lot of people that I talk to, at least, like they start out with the idea of some kind of freedom, right? Like time freedom, or freedom to go on more vacations, or they want to do whatever, like have more time for hobbies or something, right? They want to build themselves, but then, like it's so easy to get caught up in, like you said, like in the growth or the money, or, like once you kind of crack the nut and kind of figure out how things work and how things are structured, and you're building and you're scaling, it's so easy just to keep working and get bigger and bigger. And then people kind of forget, like, oh no, really, it's the small moments, it's the times where you can sit on a Monday and get a massage, or, Tuesday in the afternoon and drink wine with your wife or whatever. Right. Yeah. So it's like the small moments that are really like the really special ones, at least.
Yeah. Absolutely. So listen, I want to tell you a little bit more about, because I want you to tell your backstory, but here's the thing. I would also like to say thank you very much for your service. Greatly appreciate it. So thank you. And that stated, most of the Going Long family, if not all of the Going Long family, knows that I have this kind of character flaw. I am a recovering perfectionist, Eli. And so what that means is sometimes I do things that are, some would say, a little bit over the top. What I mean by that is, like, I tried to tell your entire backstory in like 2.5 seconds. That was never going to happen, right? You've done way too much. Like, you've impacted way too many lives, but it's this character flaw. Anyway, so hopefully you'll forgive me. Also, hopefully you will help me, because I would love for you to tell your backstory in your own words, and you can take a lot more than 2.5 seconds because you're the guest today. So you can take as much time as you need to tell your backstory. I am going to ask you one favor though, that while you're telling your backstory, that you please help me and the Going Long family understand some of the major decisions that you've made to get to this point in your journey. And then we'll see where you and I take the conversation from there.
Sure. Yeah. So my name is Eli. I'm prior military, spent 21 years, 7 years in the Army. I was a paratrooper. And then I got out for about 2 years, went to college. And then I joined the Air Force, where I finished my degree. It was in business. About 15 years of my career, my wife and I kind of sat back and we said, okay, well, we got about 5 years left until I retire, and we should have some income coming in to replace like this income, right? And so it's always been kind of like my dream, my idea to get into like real estate and business. So about that time frame, we started getting into small family rental houses, right? So we'd buy, small houses, do a small rehab and rent them out. And we got to a couple of those and we're doing pretty good. But once again, we kind of sat back and said, okay, we're doing okay, but at this pace, we're not going to hit our goal, right? Which I think back then it was, 30, 40 houses or whatever it was, to hit our income level. And so I said, okay, well, we need to scale, and we need to scale a little more efficiently, a little more quickly. So we started at that point kind of transitioning into multifamily. Because I remember driving around town one day and I saw a big apartment complex. And I was like, man, who owns those things? Like, that'd be way more efficient to own something like that than have, houses spread across town, like 30 houses across town. So I started networking and meeting people. I joined a mentorship group, and about 2018, and networked in there. And so looking for deals, and about maybe 5 or 6 months later, found our first deal. It was in Atlanta, Georgia. And after we closed that one, about 3 months later, got under contract on another deal. It was about 212 units in Atlanta, Georgia again. And from there, it just kind of took off, right? And so after that, I met my two partners about 2019, Chris and Nathan, and then we formed Atlas. And we've been kind of buying up properties since then. Now we have about 815 units across Arkansas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And we're under contract now on one in Texas that we're going to close here in about the next few weeks. And then that's kind of where we are. So I'm sorry, but the ones in Arkansas were the ones that we closed on about a week ago. So those are off our portfolio now. So really, it's like 600. It's like 600. No, it's 400. I'm sorry about that. 400 units across those states.
Okay, fantastic. Well, that's really interesting. So you've finished with the thing that I actually would like for us to pick up the most on, right? Because you've talked about a number of different things.
Okay.
But you mentioned that today you're in different states. Arkansas just exited the portfolio, but you were in Arkansas. You live in Texas, right?
Yeah.
But it's not in your backyard. Oklahoma, it's close. It's not in your backyard. Kansas, it's close, but it's not in your backyard either. So one of the things that, and you probably can see behind me here somewhere, there's like Rich Dad, Poor Dad book somewhere and some other kind of stuff that's there behind us. And I recognize that one of the things, early on was, hey, it seemed like I was reading all these books, and either directly or indirectly, it was saying things like, hey, you need to be able to invest within an hour or right in your backyard and all this kind of stuff. As you know, Eli, I live in Europe. I've invested exclusively back in the United States for over a decade. I also recognize that that's very contrarian. You, I'm sure, recognize that that's very contrarian and goes against everything that we're taught. So I'm always interested in, when I hear these types of stories, like, help us understand, what is it that really gave you the mental fortitude to say, you know what, I'm going to go against what all the books are telling me, and I'm going to invest in some place that I can't get to in 15 minutes. I'm going to invest way beyond my backyard, different states, maybe like me, very extreme, different continents. But I always feel that there's something that connects us all. And I'd love for you to share what has given you that confidence.
So if you know anything about multifamily in general, like, this is kind of like one of the meccas. Like, DFW is like the mecca of like multifamily. And so it would make sense on paper probably to like just focus here. And I know a lot of guys who do. But for us, it's just so, like, because this is like the mecca, it's just like so overpriced and so competitive. So when if you even find a deal, you're bidding on, you're on a property that probably has like, 10 to 15 other people bidding on it too. And then if you get it, like, the terms that you have to win it with are just, outrageous. So I guess like this year though, it's beginning to kind of shift from a seller's market to a buyer's market. So it's getting more reasonable now, but for the last decade or whatever, it's been like crazy competitive and crazy pricey here. So for us, we're like, okay, let's go outside of our market. I have like this primary market to secondary markets and tertiary markets that are within a driving range at least, like 3 to 5 hours away. Mm-hmm. So we can at least drive or get on a quick flight and get there. But they're in smaller markets that are stable, have population growth, that have good business investment growth, low crime, things like that kind of still hit our metrics. Mm-hmm. But we're able to find like true value add deals. So it just seemed like to us, a lot of the deals here, they've been bought and traded, 3, 4, 5 times. And so, they would tell us like, oh yeah, just a little backsplash on it and raise with like about $200. And we're like, well, okay, but I'd rather go to another market where we can buy from a mom and pop shop that has, mismanaged or just kind of just let it hum for, 10, 20 years and then they just want to sell it. Right. So it's like, they really haven't like renovated or rehabbed it at all. So we can kind of come in, make it more efficient, put some money into it, do a true value add and, bump rents and make it, kind of a shining star, like in its market at least.
Yeah. And so really what it comes down for, so it's really interesting because what I take away from what you're saying is that you were really looking for the location opportunity, right? Because you happen to be in one of the hottest markets or has been the hottest market over the last decade, especially as it relates to residential multifamily, right? Commercial residential multifamily type of opportunities. But it sounds to me like you're really looking for the opportunity in a different location. Whereas many people would say, well, I don't have the systems in place. I don't know this. I don't know that. And you've got to be able to do it. Well, you're not really even talking to those things right now. It's more, where's the opportunity? How can we actually go out and add more value, see where there are more true value add opportunities so that you can really drive more value versus saying, hey, hang on a second, we're just going to put some lipstick over here and figure out if this works. Does that seem accurate?
Yeah. Once we kind of identified those markets, it took us some time, to go drive them and go out there and spend time to put the people and places and processes in place for us to operate them, because we couldn't just go out there because we didn't really know anyone out there, So it took us, several months to kind of go and meet brokers and property managers and go drive comps and really understand and absorb, the market and sub-market to understand like what we're getting into. But yeah, initially it was like, okay, guys, let's get out of our little comfort zone here and go there, right? And go find a value add.
So, and you just mentioned something. So because it's not just you, right? It's you and your partner. So talk to us about the dynamic of what happens. Because sometimes when we're making decisions on our own, it's really pretty simple. Like, I want to do this based on X, Y, Z, and boom. Talk to us about the dynamic of, because you mentioned it was about a 2-year period when you all kind of knew one another and you eventually decided, hey, listen, we're going to go do this thing. But the dynamic of making decisions by committee or in a group, maybe talk to us about that. Because I'm sure that came into play, whether or not you just stay in your backyard which is DFW. It's not like Dallas-Fort Worth, excuse me. Not just like any other market, or location. It's a pretty important one. Talk to us about that.
So critical. Like, your partners are probably like the number one choice that you'll make. And especially if you're in like commercial multifamily. So you're going to partner with somebody eventually, right? Like, and so for us, it was important that we had, so there's 3 of us, it's me, Chris, and Nathan. And it was important for us to have a shared vision, but like we could be in an echo chamber. So we have to think very differently from each other. And that means that we're not going to always agree. So for us, we have to have a shared dream and shared vision, but then like the way we approach things are very different. So for us, it's very important that we're open and we're honest, right? And not like, brash and we're assholes to each other, but if we're not pulling our weight, or if something bothers us, or if something, or if we needed to have a different perspective, we can freely say it, or say, hey man, like something's going on. Are you okay? Like, I've noticed like, like you're coming across like this way, and it's not really driving with the group. Right. So for us, it was really important that we have different skill sets, different kind of mindsets, but we can still work together. And at the end of the day, still agree, right?
Yeah. No, I think that's important. And that's one of those dynamics whenever you are coming together, it's how do you balance that honesty and openness to be able to still drive to create a result? Because at the end of the day, you've come together to be able to drive an outcome or more consistent outcomes or more consistent results. Trusting that you're enjoying today's conversation. And you know what? If you're tired of getting crushed by taxes and you're looking for greater freedom to be able to choose what you want to do when you want to do it, make sure that you go to firstgencp.com/going-long and see how we can help you today. Let's get back to the conversation. One of the things you talked a little bit about this, even you used the language that you used, it was about efficiencies and scale early on. So hopefully the Go Long family was listening to that. But beyond that, right? Because you noticed that you were driving all over town and you had these, kind of smaller multifamily or one single family residences. And you're like, wait, hang on a second. Somebody owns these really big buildings and that's very efficient. How much of that would you say that you saw the efficiencies? I spent a lot of time in IT, specifically on the software side of things. And I know you have a lot of IT project and project management and things like that. How much of that played into your desire to drive more efficiencies by going bigger? Because sometimes people don't want to go very big because they're afraid of it. They're afraid of the numbers. They're afraid of that exact thing that attracted you with the scale.
Oh yeah, it's super important, and that's why I first joined a mentorship group. I mean, if I had more time, like maybe 10, like if I had been younger, right, I had 10, 15 years, then I would have started small and then grown as I got, as time went along, right? So I would have done the house rentals and then duplexes, triplexes, and then small multifamily, maybe a 5 or 10 unit, and then a 20 unit or something like that, right? But because I was put in a time constraint, I had 5 years until I retired. And then after our first couple of houses, I was like, hey, we're down to only a couple of years here, huh? We need to, grow. So I was kind of forced to scale to multifamily. So in the big ones, which was scary too, so I joined a mentorship group. And then as I realized so you have a network and a team there, but then the way these big deals are structured, you're not really buying properties, you're buying businesses, right? So can
you please say that again? Because I think that's really important that people hear it a second time. You're not really buying properties, you're buying
a business. You're buying a business, right? So in that way, it's very efficient, right? So you have teams of people to support the property, right? Yep. And so that kind of helped reinforce, okay, so it's not just me managing my house, it's me overseeing this large ship of people. So if I can manage, this ship, then, I can do this. I can grow faster in volume, right? As opposed to, growing, with just myself with houses, right? So that's what I kind of meant by growing more efficiently and scaling more efficiently.
Yeah. Okay. And that makes a lot of sense. And I appreciate you touching on that point, and also just bringing the fact of the matter is, and depending on the desire for an individual, you start to recognize it, and also your skill set, right? Because I think about the IT project management stuff. I managed a $100 million business across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. So I enjoy being able to manage complex type of businesses or being a part of them. It's not for everybody, right? I get that. You get that. But for those of us who enjoy managing, at scale, you recognize that there are some efficiencies. As long as you can drive those efficiencies, then on the other side, there should be, days where you can go hang out with your wife and have a nice glass of wine on a Tuesday or something like that. So, but you have to get through, the startup and stuff like that. So I appreciate you sharing and giving us that perspective on things, Eli, because I think it's one of the things that many times gets lost. Mm-hmm. So we've talked about a lot of good things, right? I'm also interested, talk to us about some of the challenges you've seen early on, or even, just in terms of being able to manage these businesses at scale and sometimes across different geographic locations.
Oh gosh, challenges. So I would say one of the biggest ones was us like this year in general. So we kind of hit a point at the beginning of the year where we had to kind of shift our focus from going from buying properties to growing a real estate investing company. Mm-hmm. Right. And so there, I mean, it's one thing to buy a couple of deals, to buy a deal here, buy a deal there, but then you have to kind of like, eventually you're running around with your head cut off because you don't realize like, okay, well, I need to pull myself out of the weeds and start working on the business and not like really in the business. Right. So mm-hmm. I think people don't really talk about it a lot, but it's like, okay, well, how do you grow a company? Like, how do you, like what kind of software do you use and what kind of processes and how and who do you hire? Is it marketing? Is it property? Is it asset management? Do you build a construction company to help you out with that? How do you vertically integrate? Right. Mm-hmm. And so you really have to, in all the chaos, you really have to pull yourself out and say, okay, if we're going crazy right now and we're at like 500 units, how are we going to act when it's like 2,000 units or 10,000? Or we have like 5,000 units plus we have other assets, we scale into self-storage or ATMs or whatever, right? And now we have all this other stuff. How do you not run around with your hair on fire anymore, right? So I think one of the challenges that you have to kind of understand, okay, the idea isn't to always, be in the weeds. Eventually you got to pull yourself out and start working on the business, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, and that's and so when you look at these challenges, right, they're positive challenges, right? There's how are you confronting or how are you going to confront growth, and how are you going to do that in a way that, once again, to your point, talking about the different processes and the different standard operating procedures, talking to those efficiencies and things like that, which is also one of the reasons that it's really important to have different backgrounds when you bring groups of people together to found companies. One of the things take revenue that you've made and pour it back in the company, right? And to hire people. And that's very scary too, because now you're kind of like, okay, well, I've made, we made X amount of money, but now I need to pour a portion or majority of it into hiring somebody, right? And so, I mean, and it might be a flop. You might not be able to, you might not hire like the right marketing person or hire like the right person, the right job first, right? So which job do you hire first? So these are all decisions that, we've struggled with this year as we've kind of grown our company at least. Okay, fantastic. So you talked to us about some of the challenges, but what are also some of the tips that you would provide someone who's, also maybe, they're getting started. They have the goal is to get to 600 units, 500 units, or it's that person who's like, hey, listen, I'm in a really busy job. I really, I'm tired of being in the stock market. This whole thing sounds interesting to me. I'm just here because, I'm listening to Eli and Billy talk and I'm getting some more education, but I'm a really busy professional. I don't really want to be out there picking up or managing teams or buying a business, but it wouldn't be bad if I could actually invest in people that I actually understood. So maybe talk to those two people and provide them some of the tips of some of the positive things that are also happening.
I got you. So the way I started out was when I was in the military, I worked like two full-time jobs essentially. So I was in the military and I built a business. So that's pretty chaotic. So if you don't want to do that, you can always invest passively. So we have passive investors, people who kind of buy into us, as a team, and they like our properties, like they have money that they want to invest into real estate, but they don't want to take the time to go out and hunt the deals down, underwrite them, go tour them, purchase them, and then manage them afterwards, right? So like they invest their money into our properties. And so for those passive investors, I would tell them that, to look at three things. First is the team, right? So you can look at the team. Are they experienced? Are they transparent? Do they respond to you? Do they open their books up and kind of they explain things to you? So that's very important, is the team's experience. next to the market, right? So maybe if it's not a market that you completely buy into, what's the market and why are they in it, right? So what markets are they in and why do they pick them? Are they good, like consistent cash flowing markets? Are they markets where it's boom and bust, so it's a lot of appreciation? Is it a lot of business growth? Is a lot of population growth? Are the economics there, right? So it's the team, the market, and really after like those two things are kind of met, it's the deal. The deal kind of comes last, and which is kind of odd to say it, but it's true, right? So once you kind of vet those first two factors, the last one's kind of like the deal. And does the deal meet your criteria? Is it are the returns there, the depreciation? Is it your kind of vintage, your kind of asset, and things like that? So.
Yeah. All right, perfect. Well, I appreciate you sharing that and giving us that perspective, and really, it is one of the things that I learned as well. Like I always used to think I'm going to go out and buy this specific deal, or I like to call them opportunities. Right? You go out, get in, you invest in this opportunity. Realize that I didn't have a team in place. It was a disaster. And then I didn't even realize I was in the location because I didn't do the studying. And so, talking to the points that you talk about is exactly that. It's really looking at, who is the team? Do they understand the location or the market that you're investing in? And then if they do, then you're minimizing or mitigating the risk of your capital, your time, your energy, because these things are aligned with one another. So I love hearing your perspective on that because it aligns very, very much so. One of the things that I did want to kind of get into before we get to the going long final three is talk to us about just also too, and you kind of already started, but some of the ways that you communicate with your prospective investors or your new investor community.
Well, so for us, a lot of it is probably the first two ways are going out to different events and like meetups. So a lot of local events, a lot of events like nationwide. So we'll fly out to different real estate conferences, different any kind of like financial or conferences that deal with economics or money or just anything like that, right? So we're always out talking to people and meeting people. Number two, like a big push for us, like this year, has been social media. So we're kind of we kind of had to shift our focus from, okay, guys, we aren't just three dudes out there buying properties. We have to go out and actually get on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, on YouTube. So we built a podcast, and then we're also having constant videos and lessons like on our social media sites. Okay. So those are like the two top ways that we kind of communicate with our investors. And we also have a newsletter too. So every month we send out a newsletter and kind of explain to them what we're up to, what we've done, our wins, our challenges, and things like that. So the idea is to, always keep in touch with them. Yep. And then give them an avenue to be able to communicate back to us. So they can email, they can call. Some of them, if they're in town, they can meet me for coffee. Yeah. Stop by and I'll go have drinks or coffee or lunch with them or something like that too.
All right. Fantastic. Well, that sounds phenomenal. I appreciate that, Eli. And you know what? It's time for us to get into going long final three. And the thing is, because you're our special guest, look at him. He's already ready. He's like, yes, let's go. So here's the thing. I never ask you to go long final three unless you tell me that you're ready. So my question for you is, are you ready?
Yes, let's do it.
You were born ready. I mean, come on. Was that even a question? Are you serious? So here we go. So we started with you over in DFW. I want to bring it back to this side of the pond because now, as you know, I live over here in Europe. So I would love to know, what is your favorite European city that you've either visited or is still on your bucket list to visit?
I would say one of two places I've always wanted to see is Athens or Sparta. Those two places I've always wanted to go.
So which one, if I have to pin you down, which one are you going to go with for your one place?
Probably Sparta. I'm a big Spartan history guy, and so I've always been kind of really intrigued, with that, their ancient culture, and I want to go and kind of experience, what it was like, and to kind of see the actual ruins and It just seems very, very interesting.
Beautiful. So that we'll go with it. We'll add it. It's going to be in the show notes. And now we're going to get to question number 2. Question number 2 is, this really has a lot to do with, I guess it's a lot of the experiences that I've had with people that are very successful, right? People like yourself, Eli, people that have had the opportunity to experience a lot of things, have seen a lot of things, and most importantly, made a lot of really positive impact on the world. And so, I guess when I watch really successful people, I notice that they do one thing very differently. It's that, typically as they're going out, and I guess one of the things that makes them successful is that they go out and they put together a plan, and then they execute this plan flawlessly the very first time, which allows them to go much faster.
Yeah.
Are you laughing?
Yeah.
He's kind of laughing in my face. Yeah. I think that's funny. You know I'm joking, right? You do know I'm joking, right, Eli? Okay. I was like, hang on a second. He's laughing at me. He's really laughing at me. He got the joke. So yes, of course, man. It's a joke. Like, I like to have fun here. Like, really successful people, it could happen, but it's probably not very likely that they're going to get things right the first time normally. Actually, what I've seen is that really successful people tend to get things wrong 20 to 50 times more than most people, right? And this kind of the first part was a joke, as you laughed. This is not a joke. The thing that I've noticed about people that are very successful is every single time that they make a relevant mistake, Eli, is that they stop, they learn from that mistake, and then what they do after that is absolutely amazing. They go out and they put different strategies, tactics, and actions in place to minimize the probability of that exact same thing happening again. So I don't want you to think about the mistake or the learning opportunity or however you want to call it. What I'm really interested in you sharing with us is, what were the lessons that you learned? And the lesson that at least one lesson that that you want to share today, because it's going to help to affect someone's life today positively, so that that person doesn't go out and make the exact same mistake that you did. Okay. What would that one lesson be?
So I already said partners already. So that was probably number 1, and that's important, but I've already said it already. So I'll go on to time management, right? So there was a time when I was working on base in the military, and then I also was kind of building up our company too, right? So I was working like 2 full-time jobs, and so I struggled a lot because I had my W-2, my business, and then I came home and I had my family, right, and I had my hobbies and anything else, right? So or lack of hobbies. So I really had to really struggle and understand that I don't think there really is a balance. Like, I think everyone tries to balance, but I don't think. I mean, like when you give attention to one area, one more gives, right? So if you're going to focus on the family, well then, probably your health is going to, or health or the business or something is going to kind of go back and forth, right? So I think for me, the way I was able to overcome that at least was doing a morning routine, and so that became critical, and it took several years of kind of trial and error to say, okay, what's the best morning routine that works for me, right? And how do I use that to control my schedule and my day? Because if you can win your morning, you can win your day, right? Yep. And it took me. I heard it over and over again through books and podcasts, but it wasn't until I was really stressed out and just really struggling and frustrated. And then over time, I was like, oh, the morning routine is what helps you capture that and then win that, right? So I would say, whatever it is for you, whatever series of activities that helps you kind of grasp and get a hold of your calendar and your schedule is, do that and be disciplined and stick with it. It's critical, because if you don't, you'll get burned out and just frustrated beyond belief.
Yeah, I love that, man. So being able to win your morning, have your morning routine, and be able to effectively manage your day, manage your time. So appreciate you sharing that, and it is something that makes a huge impact. This goes us to question number 3, which is really about helping us to feed our brains. And I would love for you to share, what is the one book that you would recommend to the Going Long family today?
I would say Robert Greene's Laws of Human Nature. That's an awesome book that help you understand why you think and act in certain ways, and then why others think and act in certain ways, and then how you can kind of work together to negotiate and get through life in general with partners, with your kids, with your wife, with your friends, anything, right? So it's a pretty deep book.
Laws of Human Nature. So we'll include that in the show notes, everybody. So don't worry if you're running on the treadmill. All you'll have to do is click a link and you'll take you straight to the book. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. If you're driving and all that kind of stuff, stay safe and just click the link whenever you get to a place that is safe for you to do that. So Eli, listen, I cannot believe these conversations fly by so fast. We're talking about you're talking about your military career and the 7 years in the Army, and then the 2 years to go get your education, and you finish in the Air Force, and then you talk about 15 years in your career. And as you're in that career, you also recognize like, hey, hang on a second, you want to get to a point where you're generating more income, not just for income's sake, but to be able to have and be able to manage more of your life. You got these small multifamily or single family, and you start recognizing something. You're like, hang on a second. Somebody actually owns these really big multifamilies, and I got to figure out who is the person that's doing that, because that seems a lot more efficient to me. And so as you started asking different questions, you started searching for different answers. You search for different answers. You find yourself also too in 2017, you start forming membership groups and getting membership, and then also being able to find other partners that were aligned to the similar mission, vision, and values that you had. And after a courting period of a couple of years, you decide, hey, listen, we're going to go out and we're going to come together. We're going to work as a team, because as you mentioned, eventually you will team with people on different aspects. And so as you've come together, you've not allowed geography to hold you back. Quite the opposite. You've said, hey, listen, I'm already in the mecca of what's happening in the commercial, residential, multifamily space right now. Let's go beyond our backyard. Let's go to a place where we can actually not just put backsplash on the walls and charge rent for $200, because that's probably not going to fly anyway. We're going to go somewhere where we can add real value. And as the value that we're driving, that also is going to help us to attract the clients that you want to be able to serve. And so as you've done that, you focus not only on being able to add more value through the multifamily value add, but also being able to serve and communicate with your passive investors. So I know that so many people in the Go Along family are thinking, Billy, yeah, just ask him the question, man. Just get over it. Ask him the question. So I'm going to ask, because everybody wants to know, Eli, what is the best way for the Go Along family to find out more about what it is that you're doing, and also what you and the team at Atlas Multifamily Group are doing?
Probably the easiest way is to email me at eli@investwithamg.com, and I'll respond back as fast as I can, and we can set up a call, coffee, lunch, or whatever. If you're in the area, I'm around.
All right, perfect. It's eli@investwithamg.
AMG. Yep.
AMG.com. Awesome, man. So we will include that as well in the show notes. So once again, please just be safe. Just be safe, everybody. All you have to do is click a link. So listen, Eli, I want to thank you very much on behalf of the entire Going Along family. Really appreciate you deciding to invest your time with us and share a bit more of your experience with us today. So thank you so much.
Great. Thanks for having me.
All right, awesome. If you give me just a couple seconds, I'm going to wrap things up with the Going Along family, and then we'll get you out of here. So Going Along family, listen, Eli shared so much. He kept it real. He gave you the good, the bad, the ugly. And also he talked about the opportunity and why this is a great space and how he and his team are continuing to add value. So take today's conversation, listen to it a couple times. Hey, you know what? Share the episode with family members, friends, talk about it. Go from theory to action. And you know what? While you're doing that, and by the way, if you want to reach out to Eli, he's even giving you his contact details to reach out to him. While you're doing that, I'm going to be here preparing the next conversation. So until then, go out and make it a great day. And thank you very much. Trust that you enjoyed today's conversation. And once again, today's conversation was sponsored by First Generation Capital Partners. If you're an accredited investor and want to find out more about how we're helping accredited investors to gain their personal freedom even faster, go to firstgencp.com/going long.